Hello, folks, it's me again, Liam, and I'm back with another video. Today's video will be, what if Ultron was the main villain of the first MCU saga, which I'm covering Phase 2. This time I'm covering Phase 2. Let's begin, shall we? So, the first movie here is Iron Man 2. It's identically the same movie because I do not hate Iron Man 2. I think Iron Man 2 it's, it's alright, it's decent. I will give it like a 6.5 out of 10. But yeah, it's been delayed to Phase 2. So, movie's not entirely different. It's identically the same movie, like I said, but with some changes, obviously. First of all, the whole Tony not wanting to join the Avengers thing would be cut out completely because we already have the Avengers established. Secondly, it would be called Iron Man Armor Wars because that's the movie was trying to be like, an adaptation of the Armor Wars storyline. Speaking of which, there'd be more villains than just, Justin Hammer Whiplash, like Crimson Dynamo, Living Laser, and Firepower. So yeah, a little bit of elements from Iron Man 3 would be taken. And of course, during the final battle, Justin Hammer would become Titanium Man, like in our Iron Man Armored Adventures, and mostly everyone survives except for Whiplash, which would set up Crimson Dynamo's arc, where he wants to get revenge on Iron Man for the death of his brother. Since, Ivan Vanko and Whiplash were the same character when Ivan Vanko is clearly Crimson Dynamo in the comics, so yeah, I decided to do something about that. And the after credits scene would set up the Mandarin for Iron Man 3, which I would have it be like, the whole news coverage thing. That's another element from Iron Man 3 that would be taken. Next movie is Thor the Dark World. Movie is mostly the same. The big difference that Curse would be replaced with Enchantress, and she would want Thor to be her husband, and she would want Thor to join the Dark Elves, and so they could overthrow Malekith and take control of Asgard. But Thor's like, no, for obvious reasons. Malekith still dies, but Enchantress would escape with her actions. Next movie is Captain America the Winter Soldier. Same movie, except Alexander Pierce would be revealed to be Red Skull, and he would get away with his actions, thus setting up the conclusion of Phase 2. Because there would be a second after credits scene with Red Skull where he meets Enchantress, Crimson Dynamo, and Living Laser. As well as Abomination. And they begin to form a team called the Masters of Evil. Next movie is X-Men First Class. Now, how are the X-Men going to be there? I'm going to say this. In this timeline, after the negative reception to X-Men Origins Wolverine, Fox gave up the rights to the X-Men back to Marvel. So, the movie would be not too different, but this is what would happen. First of all, the movie would be more like The Godfather 2, with one half focusing on the backstory of Magneto and Professor X and how they were once the best of friends. It would just be flashbacks. It wouldn't be too much like The Godfather 2, but I'm sure you guys know what I mean. This would detail, like, the backstory of Charles Xavier and Eric Lessier. Second, the present day story would obviously focus on the formation of the X-Men. In terms of the team, I was thinking hard, but I decided to go with a team that's slightly inspired by Transformers Prime. What do I mean by this? Well, the team would be inspired by the Autobot lineup in Transformers Prime with Wheeljack and Elita 1 editions. I say Wheeljack because he was in Transformers Prime in the first season. Wolverine, not Wolverine, Elita 1. I was inspired by a fan-made intro of Transformers Prime that had Elita 1 replace RC, so yeah. So in terms of the team, X-Men team, they would be Cyclops, Jean Grey, Beast, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, and Storm. I think Ty Sheardon, Sophie Turner, the actor who played Colossus in the Deadpool movies, Nicholas Holt, and who else? Oh yeah, Cody Smith McPhee could have still played their characters. I think Henry Cavill could have played Wolverine, and I could kind of picture Zoe Saldana as Storm. But I also think James McAvoy could have still played Professor X. Maybe the flashbacks, most likely. But present day storyline, I could definitely see Mark Strong as Professor X. In terms of the Brotherhood of Mutants, they would be Magneto, Toad, Mystique, Juggernaut, Sabretooth, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver. I think Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen could have still played their characters. I would not want to go with Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique because she's Nightcrawler's mother, so I would want to go with an older actress. I think I could have seen Dominic Purcell as Juggernaut. I could see Liev Schreiber maybe reprising his role as Sabretooth. If not, I could get a different actor. Toad, I could see the actor who played him in Days of Future Past. I could definitely see him still playing Toad. But in terms of Magneto, yeah, I could still see Michael Fassbender playing Magneto, but he would be playing Magneto in the flashbacks. Present day Magneto would be played by Jason Isaacs. I would want to picture the X-Men being kind of like late high school to early college. I mean, I get they were in high school throughout most of Evolution, but still. In terms of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, they would have arcs where they start to doubt their father's allegiance and they would join the X-Men in the end. Betraying their father, Magneto, the Brotherhood. Next movie is Avengers Masters of Evil. The beginning of the movie would remain the same, but it's a completely different movie. Like, Baron von Strucker would be replaced, in the beginning would be replaced with Red Skull. Because, like I said Red Skull up. But, and he would get away so he could build the team, the Masters of Evil. In terms of the team itself, they would be Red Skull, Baron Zemo, Enchantress, Crimson Dynamo, Living Laser, Egghead, Whirlwind, Abomination, Trickshot, and of course, when it came to Black Widow, it was tricky. I thought Yelena was Crimson Widow, but I'm gonna have to go with Hmm. I decided to go with Iron Maiden, who I think could have still been played by Rachel Weisz. I think she could have still played Iron Maiden. I would also have Claw join the team since he was in Age of Ultron, so Black Panther would appear in this movie. It was a big mistake not to include Black Panther in Age of Ultron because Claw, who is clearly his arch enemy in the comics, was in this film. I mean, I get he was also in a villain, the Fantastic Four, but I associate him more with Black Panther. That's just me. Now, Ultron's body would be complete because I would say this at the end of Iron Man 2, who Hank, there would be an after credit scene where Tony and Hank finish building Ultron's body. Now, Ultron started off good, and when it seems like, the Avenger during the final battle when the Avengers are slowly losing, they decide to call in Ultron and some Ultron bots, but obviously that plan goes haywire, and Ultron begins to kill some of the members like Red Skull, Whirlwind, Egghead, and Living Laser. In the end, they would. Ultron would be shut down after the plan went haywire. Now, Baron Zemo would see this as an opportunity to become the new leader of the Masters of Evil because throughout most of the film, Red Skull and Baron Zemo's relationship would be more like the relationship between Megatron and Starscream from Transformers because I just think it makes perfect sense. If they were on the same team, the Masters of Evil, I could definitely picture that. I get that his grandfather, Baron Heinrich Zemo, worked with Red Skull, but considering the continuity MCU, I just don't think it would really work out well. The Avengers would go their separate ways in the end, and they begin to form a new Avengers team, and of course Mockingbird would be a new member because there'd be this whole subplot where Hawkeye and Bobby Morse would be dating, like starting to attract feelings, thus replacing that god awful Hulk and Black Widow storyline. And of course, Eric Selvage would be dead because he would be killed by Enchantress, who would return for Thor Ragnarok. The after credits scene the ending would show the Avengers watching some news coverage, and they would see a new team called the X-Men. And so this would set up the Avengers versus X-Men storyline in the future, which I'll get to in the next phase. And the second after credit scene would show Ultron, who is powered down, slowly reactivating. Next movie is Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's not too different. Some differences are that this would be the introduction to Scott Lang. Hank is starting to doubt if he could be like, a superhero still. Henry Jr. would also be in this movie as the son of Janet and Hank, who would have made cameos in the first Avengers movie and the previous film. I could definitely see Noah Jupe, the actor who played Jack Willen Wonder as Henry Jr. I think he was born to do the role. He's just perfect as Henry Jr. Now, in terms of the villain, is it still Ghost? Ghost would be more of a side villain. We don't know that she's Egghead's daughter until Ant-Man 3. But the main villain would be Black Ant. And he would be taken away at the end. And this would also set Skyline up to become the next Ant-Man, since this would be his introduction. And Cassie would also make her debut in this film. So yeah, some elements from the first Ant-Man movie would be taken. That's all I have to say for Phase 2. Stay tuned for Phase 3. I'll see you all later.